We are live. Good hello, everyone. Because I didn't know what time it was. Good afternoon, but I'm conscious that many people will watch this on YouTube. I'm trying a new thing, and we're broadcasting onto Facebook and YouTube concurrently. I know, exciting. So let's just see how that goes. So good afternoon, welcome. For those of you who don't know me, my name's Heidi Maver. I'm the founder of EOTAS Matters. I work supporting parents and carers of families, children and young people who have barriers to attendance, particularly autistic, ADHD, and otherwise neurodivergent kids. And I'm also an advocate and a best-selling author of Your Child Is Not Broken, Parent Your Neurodivergent Children Without Losing Your Marbles. Hello. So I'm doing something a little bit different. For the next couple of weeks, I'm interviewing neurodivergent adults who were not discovered to be neurodivergent until into their teens or adulthood. And we're going to share in short, like 20-minute blasts, some light bulb moments with those people. So my first guest, I'm thrilled, starting strong, no pressure, Susan, but starting nice and strong.
You keep saying something new. I must have the rabbit in headlights look, because I have no idea what people are seeing right now, what is going on, and my brain's whirring at 300
Don't worry.
I am sure it's going to be great.
So my first guest is Suzan Issa. Suzan is the founder of Raising a Wild Child and also the Wild Heart Foundation. They do incredible work supporting neurodivergent children and young people who are out of school or who have barriers to attendance. And Susan and I have known each other for, a couple of years, I would think. We work supporting a family together, and the work that Susan does is just chef's kiss. But Susan is also, I'm going to close this curtain so I don't have quite so much glare on my face, a late discovered neurodivergent adult. So in a nutshell, super quick, how did that happen? I'm aware of ADHD, so we've got 20 minutes.
I'll try and nutshell it as much as possible. Lots of things when I was a kid. Obviously, I was the quirky kid, all the other names you get called. Fast forward, training to be a teacher and training child development, and having this massive realization that neither I nor my children fit what looked like the typical development that you would expect from young people, and because both myself and my children are all neurodistinct and neurodivergent, it never occurred to me that there was something. And it took an ed psych who was assessing a child in my class that couldn't understand how I understood him so well and intuitively. And she said to me, you know, this isn't meant to be intuitive. You might want to look into that. And that started my journey into kind of figuring out what was going on.
So it was another adult who said to you, have you considered?
Yeah, I mean, it was these, I had twins. It was my first year of teaching. I'd only been there a couple of months, and twins that were at the risk of exclusion, and because of their behaviour. And she came in to do the final assessment before deciding they couldn't meet need. And they'd really settled. And she said, how did you know what they needed? I said, well, you know, like every child in my class, I sat, I observed, I watched, and they're obsessed with a banging of a door, and everyone just presumed it was just repetition. I gave them cameras, I observed them, I watched. One was really fascinated by the hinges, the other one was fascinated by the cause and effect and the changes in sound. And so set up a bunch of hinges, set up a bunch of things that they could do variable sounds on, and suddenly they were settled and were able to focus the rest of the time. And then she asked, what's your background in autism? I said, I don't know what you're talking about. It hadn't even occurred to me at that point. Despite I stopped going to school when I was about 11. I said, I don't know what you mean. And then she said, you know, it's not meant to be intuitive. I'm like, okay.
I mean, except it is. If we had more autistic teachers, then, oh my God, what a difference that would make. But I mean, yeah.
Absolutely. And it's been the foundation of all my practice since, in that we all talk about, wouldn't it be great to have a world without labels? But sadly, nobody's willing to just stop and observe and understand without the label. And that's all it really takes. And so we need the label, but we can also sort of create the world where we just stop, observe, and figure stuff out. And similar to what we're going to talk about today, I think, is just really understand and accept.
Yeah. So one of the things that we've done with this series is as I've been speaking to people about this, I've kind of thought about the conversations that we've had and the things that the person who I'm interviewing has said then when I've been like, oh my giddy ants. And the thing I want to talk about today that you said to me that was like a ka-ching penny drop moment, light bulb moment, was about habits. And when you explained this to me, I was like, oh my God. And it came on the back of recently I made a TikTok about the struggle that I have with laundry, just to illustrate. Here's my Mount Washmore currently. That's my laundry on my bed waiting to be put away. I just move it between the bed and the chair so I can get into the bed and then back onto the bed so I can work. That's been the situation for about a week.
Yeah.
That's not irregular. And I said to you that someone had said, oh, it's just making it part of your daily routine. And you said,
and there's been stuff going around on the internet about habits and automatically forming habits. And apparently, and some people might have seen this stuff on TikTok, apparently there are things that people do without thinking about it. And you're like, I'm sorry. I don't even get out of bed without thinking about it. And it reminded me of so often when I'm working with ADHDers and we're thinking about how to get things done, I would say, take it out of the abstract and put it in the concrete. That's this whole idea of making lists and everything. And I know I'm not saying make a list, please. I'm not saying I get
just
it.
to check though, Susan, as a cure for your ADHD, have you considered making a list? Because I know that.
I don't know if anyone's seen my TikTok where I put up this meme of someone said, well, stop being so lazy and just do it. And I just put up a meme saying, can everyone see the ADHD just rise from my body as I've been given this wonderful advice?
I mean, if lists worked, we'd be doing it, right? I mean, we do lists. Of course we do. But
we do hundreds, then we forget them. And the thing is you write a list, you close the notebook and you go, oh, I wonder what that notebook's for. You open the lid, there's my list. And then you close the notebook. You go,
a million different places with the same list in various forms and just hope that you discover one at the time that you need that list. Pretty much. Yeah.
Absolutely.
But yeah, you were saying about routine and people and that executive function. When we talk about executive function, we're talking about the process it requires to decide on a task, mentally organize a task, start a task, complete a task, finish a task uninterrupted. And that's the thing that many of us ADHDers really struggle with, that process, executive function. And you were saying that there are some people who do that without even having to think about it. And
some people go, I'm going to have a shower. Should I have one now or later? I'll do it now. And they just get up and do it. And it's not until you realize that you think, what happens when I think I'm going to have a shower? Okay, I'm going to have a shower. Oh, but I wanted to kind of go for a walk first. If I go for a walk, I might sweat a little bit. And if I sweat, I'm going to need another shower. But I don't want to have a shower. And then I can't have a shower until I've gone for a walk. And now I can't do anything because I can't go for a walk until I've tidied my house. Because if the house is a mess, I don't want to come back. And suddenly it can't happen. And it's 8 p.m. and you've not gone for a walk. You've not had a shower. And you haven't tidied your house. You've done you've done an awful lot. But on the outside, you've just stared at a wall. And it occurred to me, the whole cupboard closing thing. This is something I've been really dying to say since seeing all this habit stuff go on. Things like closing the kitchen cupboards. They do it out of habit.
Without even thinking about it. And I go into the kitchen and it's like an exorcism has happened because every single cupboard door is open. And I'm like, are we haunted? Oh no, it's okay. I've got ADHD.
When I first lived alone and I'd walk back into a room, especially if I've had the shopping delivered and I'm halfway through putting the shopping away and then something takes my attention somewhere. And off I go, and then I forget, of course, it no longer exists. I come back into the kitchen, I think, who's been throwing food all around my kitchen? What has happened here? And the other thing with the kitchen cupboard thing, it's just been a train of thought I'm having. The whole time I open any kitchen cupboard, I'm saying to myself, remember to close the cupboard, you'll bang your head. Remember to close the cupboard or you'll bang your head. And I don't close the cupboard. But apparently there are some humans who just open a cupboard and without thinking, close the cupboard.
Who are these people you speak of?
Apparently they're everywhere. But they're not very creative, bless them.
But you know what I thought was really interesting? When I said to you about the person that had commented on my video had said, just make it part of your regular routine.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you have this, but as an autistic ADHD person, I'm constantly in battle of like my autistic brain, or that side of my functioning requires routine and familiarity, but my ADHD requires dopamine and variety. And so I'm constantly in a battle between the two parts of my neurotype. It's not two parts, it's the same thing, but that's how my brain operates. And the result is being constantly anxious all the time about things not being as I want them to be, and things not being exciting enough, things being too predictable, and not having something to look forward to. And the idea that you would have a regular routine that is just natural, that you don't have to think through. I have a routine in the mornings, but it's an engaged process whereby I get out of bed and I think, right, okay, I remember that making my bed in the morning is a good idea, because then if nothing else, I've got a clean bed when I get, or I've got a ready bed when I get in the evening. Right, I'll make the bed. Okay, and I make the bed. But I don't just do it automatically.
Well, there are some people that get out of bed and just do the duvet thing without thinking. And it's, I mean, when you throw in PDA as well, it's anything, for me, I believe it's anything that has taken away my autonomy over the next 60 seconds of my life, I will reject.
Yeah.
Even if I've chosen it, even if it's something I've been desperate to do. Do you know, when this first came to me as well, was I do some work for financial planning, just to understand human psyche a little bit. And the idea of opportunity cost. For everything that we choose to do, there's something we're choosing not to do. Yeah. And because we want to experience the whole world, it's part of our magic, part of who we are. We'd love to just experience everything without consequence and just make a decision every second of the day. And but the minute we think, oh, I have to do this, the lack of being able to prioritize is, if I choose to make my bed, but that means I can't rest for 30 seconds more. I can't do that. And we're constantly grappling with this need to be autonomous. Yes. And so even if it's something that, and even when we're led by our own wishes, something we want to do because we feel better, throw in time blindness that comes with ADHD, the cause and effect. And when I'm trying to explain this to people about, well, why can't you just decide what you're going to do in the future? But if you do that, you'll feel better. Now, I know that up here, but nobody told my nervous system. And the closest I've got to explaining that is, you know how we all know the environment's going to pop. The environment is going to pop, but it's not near enough for us to adapt our behaviors enough for us to sacrifice our little luxuries now. Even those of us that are doing a lot, we could be doing a lot more. But for the ADHD brain with time blindness and opportunity cost, there are two time frames. There's now and there's not now. Anything that's not now is as far away as
just not now. It's not here. Yeah.
And now it's guaranteed.
No impact. Because our brain is like dopamine, 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 dopamine.
And we live out every second as though, but what if this is the last second? Yeah. Do I really want to waste it doing this? That's why we're terrified of time running out, because only now is guaranteed. We're fundamentally the ultimate Zen Buddhas. Everything we're taught in mindfulness, don't think about the future. You're like, I have no concept of it.
I've got that down.
Don't think about the past.
I can't what's the word? Meditate. But I've got down being in the moment, because it's the only thing that's real.
Because we can't remember that why we're meant to meditate. And we can't think far enough into the future to realize why meditation is good for us, because we're going, but we're wasting now. Yeah. The opportunity cost of now.
What I thought was really interesting, though, when you and I were speaking, you were saying about we were talking about the habit thing, and I said, my God, yes, I had this it's not about routine, it's about comfort and familiarity. So it's the comfort and the familiarity of the things that I do regularly that I'm able to continue doing, but that also makes it really hard to pace because I can't change. So for 45 years, I've been running at 1,000,000 miles an hour. And now that I have a chronic fatigue condition, I need to slow down and pace. But it's not my routine or my habit, it's my comfort. My comfort is being in that hyper aroused, dopamine hitting state all the time. And I can't turn off that part of my brain, nor would I want to always. But yeah, and then the demand avoidance that is layered into there of, if I know I've got to do something or I should do something, immediately becomes impossible, has me stuck in this constant state of frustration and exhaustion in equal measure, and not being able to practice those things that I know would be good for me.
Absolutely. And it's also, if you think of any other, if we think of dopamine as an addictive substance, and giving up the dopamine means facing the withdrawal. And facing the withdrawal, the thing with the way that we function, and this is why people go, oh, ADHD is just trauma, and it's not, it really isn't. But the reason there's so much overlap is it's very difficult to have ADHD that isn't diagnosed without having elements of trauma. Is one of our coping mechanisms has been using the brilliance of our brain that can do 100 miles an hour. But because we live in a growth mindset world where everyone's obsessed with just do more, we're already doing the most. But we get used to pushing, and we only stop pushing ourselves until we physically cannot.
Yeah.
I mean, and it's understanding that permission to pause. We don't have it because we're sprinters. I'm brilliant on a Monday and Tuesday. If you left us to our natural circadian rhythms, our natural way of working, all humans, we're meant to produce a certain amount of productivity over 7 days, but people can see what we do on a Monday and Tuesday, then judge us harshly when we're not producing that on a Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and Saturday.
Oh my God. Even though we do 3 weeks work in Monday and Tuesday.
But they're going, if you did it on Monday and Tuesday, why can't I'm like, no. I did it Monday and Tuesday. Now I need to stare at the sky.
Yeah.
Monday, Tuesday,
3 to 4 days.
Yeah. The best employee on earth. Wednesday, questionable. Thursday and Friday, Temple Grandin would go, she's non-functioning, right?
True for our kids too, as well, right? Which is why when I look at my child's attendance record, all of his Fridays were days off. And they were like, oh, that must be because, on Fridays you work from home, or that must be because on Fridays you don't try as hard to get him to school. On Fridays he gets the opportunity to do something that is more exciting. No, it's because by Friday he's on his knees exhausted and can't get out of bed, or is out of bed but not really functioning. Yeah.
And the pacing ourselves, this is why routine is so boring to us as well, because we need dopamine to act. Look up theta brainwave, THETA brainwaves. They're the ones that hit the prefrontal cortex and help us be activated. So we need that urgency in order to act. So when people are saying pace yourself, I'm like, but if I'm not doing full on, I can't do anything. That small tasks fills up the whole day. So I think I said waiting is a verb. It becomes, I'm not relaxing. I'm just constantly thinking, but I've got this thing and it's coming. And because when people say pace yourself, what they mean is the neurotypical way. Yeah. Do this wishy-washy little bit. And monotropism that we've got Fergus coming in talking about, it explains a lot of it as well. Is we need to get in the zone. If I'm not in the zone, I can't really produce my best work.
Yeah.
And so I can't get in the zone unless I'm allowed to hyper focus. But that means if you're telling me to pace myself, when I say I'm off limits, keep me off limits. Mm-hmm. Don't just go, oh, it's just one question. Don't just go, there's no such thing, because the mindset transition that we need to get back into it, and you're almost teasing someone who has maybe just had to give up a class A drug, and teasing them with a tiny little bit of it. Mm-hmm. And then suddenly you can't relax because all you can think is about that thing. And so when we're being asked to pace ourselves and just have a routine and do things out of habit, it just doesn't function that way for us. If we're in our brain, we need to climb right in.
Yeah.
And if we're not in our brain, we need nobody to try and activate our brain, because our brain needs to file and process.
Yes. Oh my God, yes. That's what you said to me about one of the things that I found we'll share a hack each, I think, and then we'll call it a day. One of the hacks that has worked for me is, it's not a hack so much as it's a boundary. I do one thing a day now, one task a day. I have a massive to-do list, but if I've got one thing that is a big executive function, needs some planning, needs some thinking, needs me to be somewhere. That's a biggie. That's it. I used to do like 5 or 6 client calls a day. And it killed me. So now I'm like, and I say to my VA, one thing a day. That's it now.
Yeah.
And that's all, because the rest of the day I'm going to be in ADHD waiting mode, doing mode, or thinking about it after mode. So one thing a day.
That is superb. And when I do the one thing, or when I'm advising, sometimes I work with adults with ADHDs, is root yourself. And so when I've got my one thing, so yesterday my one thing was to clear out my doom box, which used to be a doom bucket. It turned into a massive doom box.
I've got a doom house.
I've been so, I know I'll fall into doom house again, and I'm trying hard. And I just thought, root yourself to the doom box. So if my brain wandered, every time I thought, what am I doing? I thought, oh, I'm doing doom box, and I'd go back to doom box. Yeah. And so rooting myself to that one thing, it might have taken all day, but it meant I did it on my terms and I still had some autonomy.
Yeah.
My favorite hack is, forever I've been trying to have a separate work phone and personal phone. And the way I work, when we work with families, they can contact us on WhatsApp, and it's a really, really precious part of the service to me, because most of our families are also neurodistinct. And I got very ill. Fundamentally, I hit a brick wall, and I thought, I have no choice. I will die if I just carry on at this level, because I don't know when to stop. So I got 2 separate phones. Then on the back of one, I've put the timings that it's allowed to be on.
I like that.
So I printed off a little sticker, and it says, and outside those timings, that phone is not allowed to be on. And I also put a sticker to say, if someone says I need a Zoom, I've put a sticker of the number of Zoom calls, and I tally it that I'm allowed for that day or what times, and I clear off the tally on the back, and I've stuck them onto the work phone to give me a visual way to separate both. But the most magic part of having the 2 phones is when I'm out and about, and I've had that thought, I've been trying to create an app for this for years, and nobody understands the simplicity of what I want to create. And my personal phone is the one that's out with me, and I can just send myself voice notes to my work phone. So my to-do list doesn't have conversation. It doesn't have anybody asking about anything else. It literally has only the messages I've sent myself. So when I switch on to find my to-do list, there's nothing clouding it. It has been life-changing, because I've been trying to find a way. So even with my PA, I go, let's make this group just to do tasks. Let's make this group just the things we want to talk about in meetings. But you invariably start chatting. I mean, unless I'm going to actually start talking to myself on the phone as well as in my head, it's been remarkable. So now when I sit down and I've got my to-do list, and it doesn't have to be just about work, but it's all there in one place, it has changed my life.
I love that. So I'm going to ask people in the comments to give us if you're ADHD, I'm going to respectfully ask you, if you're not ADHD, to not contribute in this chat. If you think you may be ADHD, you don't have to be diagnosed. You can just be discovered or discovering. What are your, this has worked for me, executive function hacks, in the knowledge that we're pouring tons of compassion on it, and we're being kind to ourselves about the fact that our brains just do things a bit differently, and list making is not going to cut it. Although we do love a list. The irony being, I love a list. I like a list just to put things on the list that I've already done, to cross them off.
It's the best opening shot. I tell you, the only time lists work is I have my daughter, when she gets overwhelmed, she'll go, can we list? And then we'll get on a Zoom. She talks, I list.
Yeah.
Particular
an organizational tool rather than a productive tool. I find it really helpful.
Yeah.
Go on, sorry. So if people are watching this and you've got hacks, pop them in the comments. This is live in a couple of my groups. It's also live on YouTube. And I'm going to put this video so that people can access a replay. And if they want to get replays of this and all of my Lightbulb moments in videos over the next couple of weeks, if you go to bit.ly EOTAS capitals Lightbulb, there's a mailing list. There's also a workshop coming up on Thursday with myself and Kate Jones, and I will get these all to you so that you can have a bit more time to ponder. Where do people find you if they want to find you? And don't give me your address, just to be absolutely clear.
This is what happens. This is what neurotypicals don't realize. Where do they find you? Immediately, my brain goes to address, and then it has to interpret and translate. But I didn't need to, because you made it clear. 2 Facebook pages. There's Raising a Wild Child, which is all about supporting families, and the Wild Heart Foundation, which is our not-for-profit that we've just set up, that could do with your love and support, because I dream of creating, it's almost the dream MDT team. It's the dream kind of for children waiting for HCPs, waiting for their provision, or if they've got their provision in place, we match them up with mentors and tutors to help implement that provision.
So if you're someone who's putting together an EOTAS package at the moment and you need some help with thinking about how to recruit tutors or how to recruit learning support assistants, then Wild Heart Foundation is a great place to go. So go and find Suzan, not literally. Go and find her on the.
If you do find me, say hi.
Don't go to a house. Here's a tip from somebody, and then we'll call it a day. I phone my friend and talk whilst I'm clearing or cleaning up. It helps me to not think about what I'm doing, and before I know it, the job is done. Like Mary Poppins. Yes. Yes. And Natalie says, making deals with my son, a deal like, if you have a bath or a shower, I'll wash the pots and hoover the carpet. All things neither of us like. So body doubling is what we're describing there. So I'll maybe have one of our guests come and talk about body doubling in a bit more detail. I can think who that would be good for.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for joining me, Suzan. We did all right. We said 20 minutes. That's been 26. I think for a pair of ADHDers, we've done phenomenally well there. I'm proud of us. We can go and have some celebration now.
StreamYard, so I'm a bit excited.
Thank you so much. I will speak to you soon. Go and find Suzan and on the internet, and we will see you for another Lightbulb Moments very soon. I will leave it on screen so you can sign up. Thanks, everyone. Bye.